The year-end results for Daybreak Games are in, and oh dear, it does not make for good reading. In this video, I'm going to have a look at how Daybreak Games and their owners EG7 performed in 2023 and what this might mean for Everquest going into 2024. So, let's get right on into it. So firstly, who are we talking about in this video? Well, there's Daybreak Games. This is the studio which runs Everquest, makes new content, and the devs that we all know. Above them is Daybreak Games, now a company we're all very familiar with. When the new ownership bought them, they kind of separated out those studios below, with Daybreak running Everquest. Above Daybreak is EG7, Enad Global 7, a Swedish company. This company bought Daybreak Game from the previous owners several years ago and have been running things ever since. And a lot of people at the time were hopeful that this might mean investment into the game, and so far there's not really been a whole lot of it. Now, there has been changes at the executive level at EG7. In comes a new CEO. Now, this is interesting because the CEO of EG7 is this gentleman who used to be the CEO of Daybreak, so he's very familiar with the IPs, with Everquest, and where they want to take this franchise. So that's a little bit of the overview, and now let's dive in and have a look at the results for 2023. Alrighty, here we go. Now, these reports, they're not aimed at gamers, so you'll never get really any game news in them, and they are aimed at the investors, the people that put their money into EG7 and expect a rate of return and want an update to know exactly how the company has done and how much dividends they're going to be making this year from their investment. And it starts off and it's super positive. Another record year. And these numbers are in Swedish krona, not chrono. That the revenue went up. On the face of it, looked fantastic. And then they scroll further down, so they're very much painting the story straight away. Good news. Here's what the rest of the industry are doing as well. We're doing well. We are weathering the storm of everything that's happening in terms of the recession in the gaming industry, the mass layoffs, and so on. And that's positive, that's good news. But where they've suffered, and they will point us, they own a couple of like work for hire studios, and their work is completely dried up and had contracts cancelled. So as they say, they're not out of the woods yet, and they're expecting further pressure in 2024. And when you listen to the webcast, it was very clear how they want to manage 2024, and Jihan used the phrase conservative. So no huge investments, just stick to what they're doing and keep everything ticking by for 2024 until there's an uptick in the game's economy. And their outlook, again, like I said, expecting it to be weak. And they have some highlights coming up. If you're a fan of Mech Warrior, there's a new game going to be coming there. And interesting, when you look further down on the third line, that this is the first mention of Everquest in the presentation, and that's the 25th and 20th for Everquest 2 celebration, and there's going to be content and events, and we've seen that, and it's all spread out throughout the year, and that's so it's bite-sized chunks for the developers to keep you hooked, because that is so important in these games, is retention. You're never going to really get a huge amount of new players. It's so important to keep the ones that you have. And you can see this game really kind of blew up in Q4 of 2022, like massively, and hit a high early 2023, and it's been declining ever since. And I suspect, you know, everyone's always looking for the next great mobile game to stick their teeth into. The whales are probably the ones that are going to keep it going. But you can see there's definitely going to be a decline, and I'd expect that would carry on and then normalize this year. I don't really care about my thinking monsters, but it's just interesting to point out that Daybreak have very much been dethroned in EG7's portfolio by a mobile game. So we're going to actually zoom in now and look at Daybreak. So Daybreak have actually been fairly steady, fairly consistent, albeit one of decline. If you look at where they were at the end of 2022, Q4 2022, they're 199 Swedish krona, and that's in millions, and 200 peaking in Q1 2023. And it's dropped, and it's continuing to drop. 182 going into Q4 2023, presumably on the back of sales of the latest expansion. Now, they do say that that was very much in line with their expectations, and a lot of this is driven from lack of this is the two things they said is the main driver for the decrease. This 10% decrease at Daybreak is lack of engagement. That's engagement with your player base, and inflationary costs on staff costs and so on. Every company out there sustaining is suffering from that. So when you tie in the content that they're drip feeding throughout the year into this, and knowing that retention of players is so important in this game, in this industry, the two tie in very, very well. They want you to keep paying your subscription for the year and keep you coming back for this new content. And I've done the first tower mission. It was pretty good fun. It took me about an hour and a half. Got a super awesome reward for a TLP that's way too powerful for the most part. Completely surpassed the charm slot you get from Planes of Power instantly. So there is that element to it, that it's not best suited potentially for TLP, but it was a lot of fun to do. And I'm looking forward to the one that drops in February. And what they say about Daybreak, and there is some interesting points in here. The underperformance is largely attributable to lower content delivery for a few titles this year, and the delayed launch of DCUO. DCUO has actually been a very successful product for them and continues to be so. Being out on consoles was so important for them. It had a huge uptick on the PS4, and they're hoping that launching it on the PS5 will see an uptick, and very much doubt that. It is a very old game at this point. Expansion releases for EQ, EQ2 and Lord of the Rings, the bread and butter. And going on about the celebration for the 25th year, they are banking on this celebration on this 25th year, and that is why the 25th year TLP is the most important one they have ever done. If this flops, they're in trouble in terms of that retention base. They need those players to resub for a TLP. They need this to be the biggest TLP since Aradun and Mischief. They can't have a Jelinek so much. Oakwind did well out the gate and got absolutely decimated by the botters, the boxers and the dupe. And again, if it's going to be more of the same for them, if they do nothing about the rampant cheating, it's going to be a continuing story of decline. They need a solid rule base, and they need to enforce their terms of service and stop the big cheaters out there. And it happens, it's continuing to happen and they do nothing about it, and people are getting fed up, and it's causing people to quit the game. So Daybreak, it really is decision time. You need to look at whether you want that one person who is running 70 accounts using the hacks, far taunts, warping, you name it, they're doing it. Or you would rather have 30, 40 individual people who maybe buy bags, who will buy chrono and so on. That's up to them, and it's clear as day when these people are cheating, and yet they don't enforce it. And if that happens on this new TLP for this year, then they are in serious trouble, and it's going to turn people away. But again, the rule set has to be strong as well. It can't be a Jelinek rule set. It can't be a Vaniki. It needs to be something that draws people in. One of the servers will be Mischief style. I am certain of it. We'll see. And the other interesting point is they sold an IP in 2023 as well for $5 million US. What could that be? What IPs do Daybreak own that they are not intending to ever go back to? The only one that really people were thinking about is PlanetSide. but it's still very much prominent and listed on Daybreak's website. They did cancel a PlanetSide game, a PlanetSide Arena. It went into beta, it had terrible reception, so they just pulled the plug on it straight away. Probably the right call. The other interesting point is for Daybreak, they're collaborating closely with Cold Iron on a new release titled coming out in mid 2025. Now, Cold Iron not associated directly with EG7 or Daybreak, but wait, who owns Cold Iron? Biggest investors in EG7 and Jihan, the CEO. So make of that what you will. Maybe it's more important for them to put money into this game, but EG7 don't directly own it, but the ownership of EG7 own Cold Iron Studios. What game that will be, we have no idea. Another interesting point, EG7 have a game releasing in 2024 called Evil vs. Evil. No one's heard of it. They've written it off. They expect it to produce $0 back for their company. It doesn't look great, and we'll see when it comes out. It will probably be released with no fanfare, with little reviews on PC, but we'll have a quick look at it when it does come out and see, you know, what have they been up to with this game. So there you have it, Daybreak EG7's performance for 2023. If you want to read it more, feel free, the links are down below to their content. I'm not an expert in finance, so I've tried to interpret it the very much best I can, but in a nutshell, 2023 was a declining year for Daybreak, and 2024 is very much going to be conservative. Stick to what they do, don't take any risks, don't expect any fireworks from them whatsoever. Maybe they'll get lucky with this TLP. It might be a bit of a Hail Mary, but as I said, I'm looking forward to seeing what they do. We know they're also looking at the anti-cheat stuff as well. They never really tell us what they're doing about that because they don't want to give people opportunities to find a way around it, but they need to do something, and this can't continue if they still want to have people coming back to their product. Let me know down in the comments below what your thoughts are. Do you expect to stick around for 2024? Is this drip-fed content going to be enough to keep you playing? As I said, some of it is very, very good already, but is it going to be enough? Are you expecting much from this TLP this year? Do you think it will be their Hail Mary and they will get an answer from the player base that we will want to play? And do you think they are going to become serious about this cheating, this rampant cheating that's happening? As I said, let me know down in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, hit that like button. If you want to see when I make further content, the subscribe button is right on next to it. And again, I want to give a huge shout out to our channel members. Thank you so much for your continued support. It keeps me here making content for you all, and it's very, very much appreciated. Other than that, I'm the Brick Canuck, and I hope that you have a fantastic day.